In 1968, George Romero brought us Night of the Living Dead. It became the classic horror film of its time. Now, George Romero brings us the most intensely shocking motion picture experience for all times. Dawn of the Dead. Night of the Living Dead has ended. Dawn of the Dead is here.
Get in the room! What's happening here?
It gets up and kills. The people it kills get up and kill.
They must be destroyed on sight.
When there is no more room in hell, the dead will walk the earth.
Hello YouTube, this is Lasers Fan talking at you again. This is going to be first in a series of videos I'm doing called When You Like a Movie Too Much. Now what I mean by that is a lot of movie collectors, at least I think there are a lot, I've seen it talked about in some boards, like to collect their favorite movie on multiple formats to show how much they love the movie. I think that's what they do. I followed into that with a couple of movies of mine that are my favorite movies. So I want to do that for you here with this particular title, Dawn of the Dead. Dawn of the Dead is one of the first movie, it's the first flesh-eating zombie movie that I ever saw, and it kind of kickstarted my love of the whole flesh-eating zombie movie genre. I first saw it when my dad first bought a VCR back in 1985. It was our first VCR, an old top-loading Panasonic VCR, and we had to go out of our town to go to a video store to rent movies because there was no video rental stores in our town. I'll never forget the name of the video store, Video Image in Burlington, New Jersey. Little thing on a tiny strip mall. We maybe had like 4 stores in this one strip mall, and video rental store had Betamax and VHS at that point. And one of the first movies my dad rented was Dawn of the Dead. Now my dad, and he understood that I liked horror movies, and he enjoyed horror movies as a kid too. I mean, when I was 5 years old, he took me to a revival of Creatures from the Black Lagoon in 3D, and me and my brother that in Philadelphia, and I thought it was the coolest thing ever, seeing the movie in 3D. I didn't care that it was black and white. It was a really cool movie, and I was glad my dad took me to that. So he knew that I liked horror movies, and he had seen Night of the Living Dead when he was younger in the 60s, but he had never seen Dawn of the Dead. So because the sequel, because it came out in the 70s. By that point, he'd been a parent, and I guess he never had time to go see it. So he went to the Dawn of the Dead to see it, to watch it, and I was mesmerized by this movie. I mean, I've seen gory movies before. I mean, I've seen the Friday the 13th movies. I've seen Alien and that kind of thing, but I had never seen level of gore to that point. And the premise was very interesting. I mean, it was taking the vampire type of premise where you get bitten by the vampire, you become one of them. But this one was on a much larger scale. You didn't have to just but they're biting you everywhere, tearing you apart. They weren't just trying to drink your blood, these zombies. They were trying to just tear you apart and eat you. So I thought that concept was just amazing, and it was that kickstarted my love of the flesh-eating zombie movie genre. Little did I know that it was George Romero, who also created Night of the Living Dead, also it was basically his creation, so to speak, at least in the cinema sense. There are creatures of legends, undead creatures of legends that are flesh eaters. But let's not get into that. But as far as the cinematic purview, he created the flesh-eating zombie movie with Night of the Living Dead. So when I started collecting movies in the early 80s, late 90s. That's when there was the Suncoast Pictures started popping up, so you can more easily find direct sale movies on tape, and Laserdisc to some extent that there were some Suncoast Pictures were offering. Not everyone was though. At that point, I wasn't collecting Laserdisc either though. When I first started collecting movies from my mom, at one point one of my brothers gave me a VCR to have in my own room. One of the first movies I wanted to seek out was Dawn of the Dead, of course. Unfortunately, at that point, Dawn of the Dead was not made available for direct sale, so it's only released once, I understand, by the HBO Authority EMI, that clamshell case of a VHS tape that most people, the first time they saw Dawn of the Dead, at least at home video, that was the first way they saw it. That version was never made for direct sales. It was only for it was a price for rental title only. I mean, you can buy it if you wanted to, but if it was still available. But at that point, it was like $60. The direct sales was like selling to the public at a price that's the public can afford. The rental price, that's price for you pay a big price, but you make it back when people rent the title. So at that point, there was no direct sales version, so no Suncoast Pictures carried it, and at that point, no video store was willing to sell their copy, because they only had one, and they didn't want to give that up. So it wasn't until several years later, I think in the early 90s, probably I think it was 1992, 1993, they finally decided to put Dawn of the Dead on the direct sales market, and this was the release by Republic Pictures. Dawn of the Dead, same cover as an HBO Thorn EMI cover, right down to whatever this is supposed to be down there, and the picture of the trees. I guess that's trees at the bottom there, like an early dawn red picture. And I think pretty much the back cover has the same thing as well. You can tell it's the Republic Pictures because it has the Republic Pictures logo down there and there. And so when I was finally released, I was so happy to get it. Luckily, a friend of mine did work at Suncoast Pictures, and she let me know when it was coming out. And when it came out, I was first one there to get my copy. So I was so happy to grab this, and I watched it many times as well. Odd thing about this release, what I understand, this particular release was recalled, not for any particular reason, but there's a video problem or there's a rights issue. The fact that it says director's cut here in the lower corner, I don't know if you can see that, it says director's cut. Now, it was when people thought it was going to be the director's cut, they thought it was going to be the longer cut that hadn't been seen since it was shown at the Cannes Film Festival, which now known in some cases it was called the director's cut, the 139-minute version, 140 depending who you read. It's 139 to 140 minutes depending on who's saying it. The extended cut shown at the Cannes Film Festival is not the preferred director's cut, so to speak, by George Romero. So now it's being called the extended cut. The theatrical cut, which is George Romero's preferred director's cut, is the 124-minute version, 127 minutes, depending on who you talk to. The theatrical cut. This is the actual. This is the theatrical cut. So not the director's cut. So I guess maybe there was some uproar about this when it was calling the director's cut, because at that point they're calling the extended cut the director's cut. So this actual release was recalled, and I think the title that was called was just called it theatrical cut. So technically it wasn't wrong calling it the director's cut because it was his preferred director's cut, but at that point that wasn't what it was called. So glad to have this. But a few years later, I would read movie review books a lot because I do love reviewing the movies. I still do, including the annual. I'm not sure if it's annual anymore, but at that point there was an annual release of the Leonard Maltin movie guide, where Leonard Maltin reviewed movies. Now, Leonard Maltin's movie guide differed from a lot of other movie guides because other movie guides back then, like the Video Hound's Movie Retriever, which was a gigantic book of movie reviews, but those were only ones that were released on video. Leonard Maltin's movie guide would review movies that were not on video, might have just had a theatrical release. So his kind of differed in that respect. So, and one thing he would that Leonard Maltin talked about when in his review of Dawn of the Dead, which he does enjoy, I think he gave it 3 or 3.5 stars. It was that it's the first way I found out that there were longer cuts of the movie, longer and different cuts of the movie. It says, if I remember correctly in the book, it said in the movie review it says some cuts run 140 minutes, European cut runs 119 minutes. So I was like, oh wow, how do I get my hands on one of those? So I never saw the extended cut until this release came out. This is a double tape release from Anchor Bay of all people. The Anchor Bay, before DVDs came out, they were actually releasing tapes under the label Video Treasures. This actually does say Video Treasures on one side, and on the other side says Anchor Bay. And also said Elite. There's a really small logo for Elite. So this, I believe, was released at the same time that the Elite CAV Director's Cut box set was released. And Anchor Bay, I think, licensed the release for them for release on VHS, because Elite wasn't releasing VHS. They were only releasing Laserdisc at the time. So I was actually in the Navy when this came out. And I saw the Navy Exchange. I was so happy to see this at the Navy Exchange. I immediately grabbed it up. It's like, this is the extended cut that I've been waiting so many years to see. It's really neat because it had, a little booklet here, open face thing here. It's probably one of the neatest VHS releases I'd seen at that time. So finally had the extended cut I've seen for so long. I liked the movie even more then. Even though it looked longer, but hey, if you like a movie, more movie is more what you like. So I really was really happy to get this, and it also had trailers on it as well. So I was so glad to see this come out, despite on VHS. So moving right along after that. So after that, I get out of the Navy. I buy a Laserdisc player while I'm in the Navy. So Laserdisc player. Why not get my favorite movie on Laserdisc? So, get on eBay way back when eBay was in its infancy. Managed to get the Dawn of the Dead image release, the Thorn EMI version, HBO Thorn EMI version here. 2 discs because one's 124, 127 minutes. Like I said, this one actually says 127 minutes on it. So. This is not a good transfer. I mean, I don't think they really did much cleanup to put this on Laserdisc. I would imagine they probably used a 1-inch tape for the source, or maybe they're going even as low as maybe a Betacam master for this. Not the best release. Some people think it's a great release because it has no DNR, edge enhancement, all that kind of stuff. But it's shaky and stuff like that, so it's not bad, not great. I mean, it's mediocre, so to speak. But it was not there on Laserdisc. It looked better than the VHS, so I was glad to grab that. It still has this label here. I never took that off. I think I'll never take that off. What the initial cost was. Adams Records Laserdisc, $31.98 for this guy. Not the most expensive Laserdisc, but this shows to show you how expensive Laserdiscs were back then. $31.98 for this movie. But yeah, so my first Laserdisc captured this. Then after a few years, the DVD started catching on, and some people were liquidating their Laserdiscs. So I was luckily again on eBay, managed to grab the Dawn of the Dead CAV widescreen director's cut. This is the first way the movie was released widescreen in America. And it had a bunch of special features on it. It had trailers, radio spots, TV spots. It has commentary with George Romero, Christine Romero, and Tom Savini. And it has the script, the original script with the suicide ending in a CAV form, so you can scroll through it if you want to watch to read the script. So just a great release by Elite Entertainment. It also does have it does say also Anchor Bay on this as well, even though Anchor Bay doesn't really do Laserdiscs. So, and as you can see, I got this autographed twice. This one I got autographed by the man himself, George Romero. I saw him at Dragon Con a few years back. I think my first Dragon Con, 2005 or 2006. He was signing autographs there, and you might have seen in my previous video when I posted this. He says we started talking about Laserdiscs, me and George Romero, and he actually says, "Take care of that player," in his autograph. So that really that made me smile a bit. I'm so glad to grab that before he unfortunately died a number of years back. And the other autograph was Ken Foray, as you can see here. So stupid of me. when I put this back in my my carrying case, I didn't let it dry enough. I thought it had dried, so it smudged. So I'm hoping if Ken Foray does come back, if we do have conventions again, and Ken Foray does come back, I'll maybe take some Google onto this this is his autograph here. Have him sign it again. Hopefully he doesn't recognize me. But so glad to have this collection. I got it for only $20 back then, so I was so happy to get this. And I think when initially these came out, it was like like $100 for this box set, because it's all in CAV. It's 4 discs in here, so so happy to have those. It's still a great transfer. I mean, it looks great. Some people could decry because it didn't look as good as the DVD, but I mean, the DVD came out freaking 10 years later, so the DVD should look better and newer technology. So the transfer technology was better then too. So I don't know. It looks great to me. All right, so moving on after that, after the Elite box set, years go by, I do get a DVD player. So Anchor Bay announces that they're going to release a super duper box set called the Ultimate Collection, Ultimate Edition. Because Anchor Bay had already released several releases of Dawn of the Dead on DVD. They had their, they had the theatrical cut and the extended cut on DVD. But now they released then the Ultimate Collection, which I believe many people who are fans of the movie have this collection. Great set. I believe the theatrical cut is the DiviMax release, so it was a high definition transfer of the theatrical release. Then they had the extended cut is on here, which doesn't look as good as the theatrical release because it didn't remaster as well, but still looks good. And then they have the Argento cut, which I've never seen at this point. The Argento cut was the first way the Argento cut was released in America. Now, some of you may not understand what the Argento cut is. I mean, hopefully, if you're a fan of the movie, you know what the Argento cut is. But the Argento cut is basically Dario Argento helped produce Dawn of the Dead with George Romero. He actually told George Romero, come to Italy and write your script, because at that point he hadn't written a script. Argento said, come to Italy, write your script. Argento and I believe Alfredo Cuomo and Claudio Argento helped produce the title, with the stipulation that they would be able to release it they had the rights to release it in Italy. And so when Romero completed his film, Argento decided to make his own cut of the movie, taking out some of the character exposition and trying to streamline it, because it's thought the movie was too long. But I mean, the Argento cut runs 119 minutes, while the theatrical cut runs 124 minutes. It's like 5 minutes, that big of a deal. But it really does feel like a different movie. It moves at a faster pace, stuff like that. So I was so happy to see that finally. So I've seen the all three cuts supposedly. I'll get to more of that later of the movie in a nice package here. Great transfers and stuff like that. So the first time buying this on DVD. So glad to have it. Then after that, some years later, I decided to start reading message boards on Laserdisc and DVDs and stuff like that. I see that some people are deciding to do what I'm doing here, talking about here, collecting your favorite movie on multiple formats. Obviously, I had already started doing that because I got 2 tapes of it, two Laserdiscs, and a DVD set of this movie. So I was like, why not? Sounds like something fun to do. So I went to go track down more versions of the movie, one of which was this release of Dawn of the Dead. This is the Dawn of the Laserdisc. Released by Republic Pictures. So I believe this actually coincided with the VHS release in 1993 and 1994. So it's a better transfer than the initial Thorn EMI release, and it also predates the CAV extended cut director's cut box set. It does, like I said, the transfer is better, looks better than the Thorn EMI release. But it's great to find another release of the movie, and an upgrade of some sorts of the previous ones. So after that, not very long after that, Anchor Bay, then called Stars, because Anchor Bay was also, I think it was always a subsidiary of Stars Entertainment, decided to release Dawn of the Dead on Blu-ray. Now, I had not been able to find too much information, or whether this was just a quick slapdash tossing the already made high definition transfer, the DiviMax transfer for the initial theatrical cut on Blu-ray, because that'd be the cheap and easy way to do it. Because they already had a high definition transfer to put on the Blu-ray as it was. I mean, it could be because this Blu-ray release that I did get from Starz did come out pretty soon after Blu-ray was put on the market. What I understand, this was released in 2007, and Blu-ray first hit the market in 2006, I believe, or was it the end of 2005? One of the two. So when this came out, I didn't even own a Blu-ray player at that point, but I knew I would eventually, because at that point I believe Blu-ray was overtaking HD DVD. So I figured, okay, it's probably not coming out on HD DVD. I might as well grab it now. I did. I'm so glad I did, because this didn't last very long on Blu-ray. I mean, I think it was one release, and that was it. Because in America, I don't think there's been another Blu-ray release in America. There was not another Blu-ray release in America of Dawn of the Dead, theatrical, extended, Argento, or what have you. So glad I grabbed that, even though I didn't have a player yet. I didn't get a player until 2010. It does look good. It's not a great transfer. It looks better than DVD, but it looks good to me. But there's a lot of people complaining about how there's a lot of motion blur and stuff like that. I have not seen that badly of motion blur, so I'll have to keep on pouring over it again and maybe compare it to other versions that I do have. But so glad to have this. This still goes on eBay for a lot of money. I mean, never goes below like $60-$70 for this version of Dawn of the Dead. So that might change though. I'll get to that later. So a couple years later, I get my first Blu-ray player, joining Dawn of the Dead, but then Arrow in the UK releases announces they're releasing a version of Dawn of the Dead on Blu-ray with the extended cut and the Argento cut all in one package. It's like, oh great, I gotta get that one too. So I did import through Amazon. This is when I realized Amazon, you can order from any Amazon if you have an Amazon account back then. You still do that now. Any Amazon you order from will be able to ship to you, and they'll transfer the money exchange will happen as well. Like, oh, that's amazing. So I can buy. It's so much easier to import movies now from Europe for different cuts and stuff like that. So I did get the Arrow release of Dawn of the Dead. Now the problem is there's only one Blu-ray of this, and the Blu-ray is the theatrical cut. The director's cut, extended cut, and the Argento cut are on DVDs. So that's kind of a drag, but I mean, it was another release of the movie on Blu-ray with a custom cover. I did love Arrow's custom covers back then with the commissioned artwork. It was these are pretty neat. I mean, I also bought a couple other titles from in this line of their Blu-ray releases, like Inferno. They had really cool custom covers. So I paid a lot for it to get it imported and stuff like that, but I was still happy to get another version of it. Now the differences between, I believe these two look to me like it's the same video transfer, because I wasn't able to find too much of a difference between these two. But the packaging for this one, since it has so much more into it, is great. This one also goes for a lot of money because it's out of print. I think it's like £100 on Amazon UK if you want to try to get this. So that's if you can get it, good luck. All right, so after the Arrow Blu-ray that I got, I started trying to find the Japanese versions. Now those, they're extremely hard to find because shipping from Japan is difficult. Buying off of Yahoo Japan Auctions, which is the main auction site in Japan, is you have to get if you don't know and how to type Japanese, it's hard to buy anything off of Yahoo Japan or even. But I was finally able to get one of the Japanese releases I did seek after for a long time, the Zombie Perfect Collection. Now this one, I believe, was the first means you could see the Argento cut outside of it's Italy and Europe, because it's just in an official manner. I mean, sure, you might have seen it by a bootleg or whatever, but this was the first way it was released outside of Europe and had the English soundtrack. So this was been really hard to get, because if you look on eBay, they have this, and it's always over $100 for this box set, even though the box set was over $200 when it first came out. So this has the this is the, I can't remember, it's the extended cut or the theatrical cut, but of the Romero version, but it has the Argento cut as well, and it has a couple of the extras. I don't want to go into all the extras on this, but it was just so glad to grab this with all the extras intact. So if you can get this, it's a great set to get. Even though the transfers aren't great, but I mean the transfers are. Yeah, so it's so glad to grab this finally a few years ago. Now, after that, as you may know, I bought, if you've watched my videos, I have bought a couple of Betamax VCRs. So I figured, I got a Betamax VCR, why don't I get a Betamax release of the movie? Now this is the Thorn EMI release of the movie on Betamax. As you can see, this is the Thorn EMI logo there. And I was just so surprised at the little teeny tiny clamshell box set of the Betamax release, because I'm always used to the bigger VHS clamshell box set. And as you can see, the difference in size between VHS and Betamax. So nothing much to say about this other than it's just something I wanted to get for completist purposes, and just see the really tiny Betamax box of the movie. So that was really cool. I haven't really watched the Betamax version all the way through, because it's not a good picture, it's staticky, because it's an old tape. 1984, 85 this tape is. So the fact that it plays at all, it's a miracle. So, moving right along after that. Now, you may know, and I found out way later than I should have, because I wasn't really checking my horror sites that much at that point. But there was a release a couple years back of Dawn of the Dead in Italy on 4K HD, and they made a massive box set of the movie. The Argento cut, they include the Argento cut, the theatrical cut, and the extended cut, all in one package. And the Argento cut was on 4K, and there's the zombie for this release in Italy. 6-disc release with it, but I missed out on that. I couldn't believe I missed out on that, and they're charging like $200 for that set. So initially, I just thought, you know what, I just bought this version. This is the Argento cut, and it's just a regular Blu-ray. It's not 4K. So I decided to grab that, because at that point, there's no other Blu-rays coming out in America, because the rights issues and stuff like that. So I decided to grab this and see how it looked. It doesn't look bad. It's not a great transfer. It's hard to tell which one I like more. But this is the Argento cut. It's hard to really compare them, because there's so many different editings of the film. But I would eventually like to grab that big box set, the big set of the Italian release, because for what I understand, for whatever reason, I don't know why, they included a full frame release of the Argento cut in that set. So I would love to see how they framed that one. I mean, did they was it open matte? Is it cropped? I don't really want to look into that, because I want to find out for myself. Because even though some open mattes it's cropped on the sides, or they just I just want to find out for myself and see how that looks. If someone could sell me that just by itself, I may be even better. But maybe for completist sake, I would like to get that version of the movie. So I think this one's pretty cheap to get. So if you want to try to get this Blu-ray of the movie, they're not charging much for this on eBay or even Amazon. But this is the set that most people want, and I missed out on them when that first came out. I'm kicking myself over that. But We'll see. Maybe I'll get that someday soon. Now, moving on. The most recent version I've got of Dawn of the Dead. This one is really sought after. Not sure why, because it just replicates a previous release. But this one is the Dawn of the Dead Zombie Conclusion box set from Japan. Laserdisc box set. I guess it's sought after because this was the last release anywhere of Dawn of the Dead on Laserdisc. And basically, it's a replication of the Elite CAV box set, of the theatrical cut, of the extended cut, which but also includes a soundtrack CD. And this one released in 1998. So this was, like I said, it was the last release of the movie on Laserdisc anywhere. So I was able to get this off of Yahoo Japan just a few months ago. And I was worried because I had just, I had bought it off of Yahoo Japan just as the coronavirus crisis was happening. So when I paid for shipping, it took a long time to get to me. And I was like, is it ever going to get to me? Because the coronavirus crisis has cut off a lot of shipping from international countries, especially in Asia. So this actually, normally when you pay for EMS shipping from Japan, it takes just 5 days to get to you. This one took 27 days to get to me. But it finally did get to me. So glad to have it. I think I overpaid for it because it cost me like over $100. But but it was good to have this for completeness sake. Not that I had to compare much to, because like I said, it's basically a replication of the CAV Elite box set. So that's long time coming to get that one. So that's all I've got right now. So another thing you might, if you're a Dawn of the Dead fan or horror fan, you do know that there is this year finally coming a new massive box set coming out from Second Sight Films in the UK. They have licensed Dawn of the Dead for re-release. They're releasing it standard Blu-ray set and for a new 4K transfer. I believe of all all three versions. Initially, it was supposed to come out in February, but there were delays. So now they're announced that Second Sight is releasing the 4-disc set, or maybe 6-disc set. I'll check on that, of Dawn of the Dead. And it's gonna be pricey. I mean, it's I think £79 was one of them. I already pre-ordered it, so it's gonna be coming to me no matter what the cost is. But really looking forward to that and see how I got the 4K, because I got the 4K box. So they didn't release. They didn't include both the standard Blu-ray and the 4K Blu-rays in the same set. You got to choose between which one you want. So I don't have a 4K TV, but I do have a 4K capable Blu-ray player. So but looking forward to that. But that really doesn't finish my collection of Dawn of the Dead movies, because even though I get that, there's some other versions that are out there that I'm thinking of getting, but I probably never will, because I'll ever find them. But there is a release of Dawn of the Dead on Japanese VHD. if you know what VHD is, it's one of the releases that's out there that I might try to get, even though I don't have a VHD player. Probably never will own a VHD player. Maybe I'll just frame it. But there's also there is a video CD from out of Hong Kong that came out in the 80s. I'll probably never see that. Well, I mean, it came out in the 90s and wasn't even was video CDs in the 80s. What we're talking about. It came out in the 90s. I'll probably never see that unless it pops up on eBay one of these days, or maybe at a horror convention, some crazy collector will have it for sale, charging me an arm and a leg for it. But then there's also so those releases are out there. There's also the German Laserdiscs. I don't know if I'll ever get those, because those are pretty hard to come by unless you see them on eBay. You never know. Maybe I'll find one of those PAL releases. Speaking of German, there's the German release of Dawn of the Dead has its history all its own of how there's so many. It was been banned for so long. The original cuts, though, there's any version you can get of Dawn of the Dead these days, at least for the longest time, it was cut and all the gore taken out. So I feel bad for German German horror movie fans. But there's also a cut coming out there only on German DVD. It's called the Ultimate Final Cut, and it's, from what I understand, it is a cut of the movie, German audio only, and it runs 150 some odd minutes. I don't know where they got all this extra footage. I guess it's culled from every single version that's out there, and even with, if you get every extra piece of footage from all the versions, I don't think it would get to 150 plus minutes. But you never know. I mean, it's out there. I don't know if I'll ever get it. I don't know if I want to see it because it'll be such a jumbled mess. But I'll see if it. I don't know if it's if I'll ever get that one, but maybe. I don't. If I see it on eBay one of these days, maybe I'll just say, click, whatever, why not? So then there's also a couple of versions of Dawn of the Dead that are out there that you'll probably never see again, because there was once released a R-rated version of Dawn of the Dead, if you can believe that. It was edited down to be double billed with George Romero and Stephen King's film Creepshow. Because Creepshow is R-rated, and so they wanted to double bill that with Creepshow. So it was edited down for an R-rated release, and for what I've read, it was panned by fans and even critics alike, and since then it was never seen since. So that's a version probably we'll never be able to see, even though I would like to see it for see what was edited out, taken out, things like that. But we'll probably never see that again. And then there's a crazy version that's released in Japan, where the movie starts with a planet exploding, and they explain how this planet exploding released radiation to the Earth and causing the dead to rise. So there's that version in Japan where they kind of like change things around in the storyline. I guess they're just figuring to just forget about the Night of the Living Dead altogether and say this is what caused the zombie problem in Dawn of the Dead, and they actually changed the dialogue because it's Japanese dubbed. So there's that version floating around. It might be the version of the initial Laserdisc release, because there is an 80s release in Japan, an 80s release of the movie on Laserdisc with analog audio. So and that might be a version that's on that disc, but we never know. So there's these versions out there that are just kind of wacky, and I might want to try to track down for completeness sake. So that's that on my Dawn of the Dead movie collection I put together because I love the movie so much, and I'm just surprised because that I never thought when I saw Dawn of the Dead I started liking it so much that it would bring about didn't happen immediately, but brought about later on such a boom of flesh-eating zombie-related material, like the ongoing Walking Dead series, and then you had the Marvel zombie comics and things like that, and even there's like cartoon Marvel zombies. So it's hard to believe that you can attribute that basically to one guy, George Romero, because before that in popular culture no one thought about flesh-eating zombies, but hey, man did what he did, and we're all the better for it. At least I think so anyway. So hope you enjoyed this collection, hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll talk to you all again later. You all take care during this crisis. Be safe.